You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's April the 22nd, 2024, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live from the Legacy420.com news desk at paceradio.net. Cindy's off today. She's still out west. She's in British Columbia, but she'll be back next week. She's getting back, I believe, in a couple of days. She'll be home, and she'll be rip-roaring to go to get the news out next Monday for sure, and I look forward to hearing about her trip as well. Well, other than that, I'm just going to get right on to the news. Got things to do today, just like everybody else. And we're going to get started here with a story from StratCan, where the headline says, Manitoba NDP could lift homegrown ban. Welcome to the real world, Manitoba. Let's hope you get to grow some cannabis instead of being not allowed to grow it. Story starts off with the Manitoba government is expected to table legislation as early as the week of April the 22nd, so that's this week, that could lift the province's ban on residents growing cannabis at home. That's right, people. People in Manitoba cannot grow cannabis like most of us here in the country can. The province has originally banned growing cannabis at home back in 2018, while Canada's federal regulations allow people to grow up to 4 plants per household. Courts in Canada have upheld the right of provinces to limit to 0 the number of plants someone grows at home, which works as an effective ban on the activity. The ban does not include those who are authorized to grow cannabis for medical purposes, so patients have been able to grow their cannabis during all of this. Now, Bill 34, the Liquor Gaming and Cannabis Control Amendment Act, has been expected to be tabled in the House for the last several weeks, but it was delayed due to the release of the provincial budget and other priorities. Rumors have swirled for weeks that the legislation would include language lifting the home grow ban, and City News Manitoba first broke the embargo on this detail on April the 19th. The contents of Bill 34 are still not known. The Manitoba NDP, by the leader and now Premier Rob Canoe, formed a majority government in an election back on October in 2023, defeated the progressive conservative government that had been in power since 2016. Then Premier Brian Palliser said at that time that banning home cultivation of cannabis would protect children and undermine the illicit market. Quebec and Manitoba were the only 2 provinces challenged the federal authority, banning home growing entirely, as did the territory of Nunavut. While Quebec's rules implement fines for those found growing cannabis, Manitoba ban creates criminal penalties and a $2,500 fine for growing non-medical cannabis in a residence. Now, here we are in Canada where you're legally allowed to grow cannabis, but yet for growing, 4 plants that everybody else can grow, in Manitoba, you are still getting jail time, criminal penalties. Quebec's ban on growing cannabis at home was challenged in the courts, making its way to the Supreme Court, which upheld the province's right to do so. Now, in 2023, a Manitoba court also ruled that the province's ban on growing cannabis at home could stay in place after facing a similar challenge. The organization that challenged the law recently filed another appeal in March of this year. That group, Toba Grown, has noted that the Manitoba NDP, including Rob Canoe, had expressed support for lifting the ban previous to forming government, a commitment the group's leader, Jesse Lavoie, has been pressuring the party to uphold. He said earlier this year that since the NDP was elected in October 2023, we have consistently communicated that our preference would be to see the law changed by the government and not the courts. So there you go. Good to see you, Manitoba. And of course, as always, I get started into a show and the dog wants out. I'll just keep going as long as I can here and see what transpires. Maybe I'll get to the break. So our next story of the day. This one comes to us from the Green Market Report. Headline says, "Could marijuana help Biden keep the White House? Blumenauer thinks so." Story says the retiring congressman said he was still going to push Democratic candidates to get federal reform accomplished this year. In an exit interview of sorts, longtime Oregon congressman and cannabis champion Earl Blumenauer strongly implied that the Biden re-election campaign were smart. It would wrap both arms around the marijuana legalization ballot measured in Florida. Blumenauer, who founded the Congressional Cannabis Caucus in 2017, has reliably been a cannabis reform champion in Washington, D.C., announced last year that he wouldn't be seeking re-election this coming November, but he told reporters on Friday that he's still going to push Democratic candidates and the party at large to get federal reform accomplished this year, including the proposed rescheduling of cannabis to Schedule 3. I'd rather just see it removed completely out of the CSA. That includes, he said, urging any and all who will listen that marijuana legalization is a winning political issue. He says, "If I were Joe Biden, trying to get right with young voters, particularly with young voters of color, and to atone for being on the wrong side of the failed war on drugs, this is the issue to champion. In almost every state where cannabis legalization has been on the ballot, it passes overwhelmingly, often outperforming the same politicians who were reluctant to embrace it," Blumenauer said at the outset of his prepared remarks. Goes on to say that there is no longer any risk for anyone embracing full cannabis legalization. To the contrary, Joe Biden himself owes his 2020 victory in Arizona to young voters who turned out en masse for a ballot measure to legal cannabis, where it passed 60 to 40. That resulted in a 30,000 vote margin of victory for Biden in Arizona, according to Blumenauer. The reason that the Democrats control the Senate can be attributed to the U.S. To John Fetterman's, who's with Pennsylvania, a longtime advocacy for legalization. There's no doubt in my mind that that was the source of the very narrow margin that resulted in him being elected to the Senate and making Chuck Schumer the majority leader. Blumenauer went even further and said he believes that the elections of Senators John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock in Georgia, which gave Democrats a slim majority in the U.S. Senate, was due to the fact that neither candidate scorned cannabis. Blumenauer finished off saying, "I will use every opportunity to make the point that cannabis can help Democrats win in 2024. What Blumenauer didn't mention is Florida, which will consider a question of adult use in cannabis on November's ballot. Reading between the lines, however, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to suggest that Biden can wrap up the presidential race if he and other Democrats decide to champion the recreational cannabis legalization ballot measure in the Sunshine State for several reasons. First, it's low-hanging fruit, politically speaking. The ballot measure already has plenty of high-profile Republican opposition, including the governor, Ron DeSantis, and some political analysis are suggesting the measure will defeat Democrats. Secondly, Florida is one of the key prototypical swing states, a bellwether that has turned plenty of presidential elections on its own. Florida went for Trump in 2020 and 2026 after being with the Democrat Barack Obama carried the state in 2012 and 2008. If, as Blumenauer suggested, cannabis was the push Biden needed in Arizona 4 years ago, it could play a similar role in Florida. Third, there's basically no risk, politically speaking, for Biden or the Democrats in general to stake out a position in favor of the ballot initiative, even for wider cannabis reform. Doing so could also help Democrats in other states, such as Virginia, where Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin who's up for re-election. He just vetoed a bill to authorize recreational cannabis sales, and it could have down-ballot ripple effects, playing a role in the Senate and the House races. Blumenauer says that we've had Republican pollsters join Democratic pollsters, giving briefings to congressional members and their staff about how there's no problem embracing legal cannabis. On the contrary, failure to do that makes their candidacies less active. All of which adds up to a similar political lesson. Blumenauer replied, if Biden doesn't start taking cannabis reform a bit more seriously, it could become a straw that breaks his campaign's back. I think, personally, I think both parties should just jump right in there and say that, hey, let's legalize it. Let's just turn my light on here. There we go. And legalize it. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I've been saying this over and over and over again, that have it legal, medically in 40 some odd states, and then recreational legal in 25 some odd states. It just doesn't make sense to have it federally illegal. It just doesn't. So hopefully something can be done about that. Make change. It's a failed program, prohibition of cannabis. It just all does is put people in jail. We know that. We've seen it. We've done it. So. All right, on to the next story. This one comes to me from Indy 100. Headline says, workplaces to start offering psychedelics to help employees. According to the report, a growing number of companies are exploring the possibility of offering psychedelic drug therapy to the employees as a method of mental health treatment. Research has shown drugs such as MDMA, psilocybin, and ketamine can be useful as an alternative mental health treatment for conditions such as depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Founder of Alexis Healthcare Systems, Jorg Gant, told the Wall Street Journal he was offering psychedelic-assisted therapy coverage to his employees through benefits. He says that, I've experimented with psychedelics myself, and I could see how it could be helpful to people. What explained he first considered covering psychedelic therapies after an anonymous summary report of prescription drug use at the company revealed how many of his employees were prescribed medications for their mental health. He says that the use of antidepressants among many employees and their families was off the charts. Yant believes that prescription drugs are overemphasized within the U.S. healthcare system, and that alternative therapy could be beneficial for his workers. He added that it would save money over time compared to expensive traditional therapy sessions, and will make his employees both happier and more productive. Inthia offers ketamine-assisted therapy coverage and will soon offer psilocybin if clients are based out of or willing to go to Oregon, where it is now legal for medical use. The company added, if MDMA is approved by the FDA, they will add that to the list. Sherry Reyes, she's their CEO, said just this past year, more than a dozen companies signed up for the therapy coverage. Psychedelic therapy has been increasingly praised for its mental health benefits, especially for those in the Silicon Valley and Wall Street. Elon Musk said he used ketamine to help him manage a negative chemical state, and Google co-founder Sergey Brin has said he used psilocybin. Despite employer interest in psychedelic therapy, there still remains concerns about the risk of using these in a non-clinical setting. Many doctors who aren't trained as psychiatrists are now adding ketamine to their arsenal for patients to use at home. David Feifel, a psychiatrist and medical doctor of Academia Neuropsychiatry Institute in California, told the Wall Street Journal. Deb Smolinski, the head of well-being and engagement with the NFP, said in a wider movement towards psychedelic assisted therapy is emerging. She says, is going to come. We see the writing on the wall. So there you go. Companies that are now, offering psychedelic therapy as a benefit in their health plan. Like, who would have ever thought that a couple of years ago? Even last year, to tell you the truth, because like people were still trying, at least here in Canada, still trying to fight to get coverage for the medical cannabis. Yes, there is some, but just as I say, there's never enough. So, all right, on to the next story. This one comes to me from StratCan, and the headline there says that 2 out of every $5 spent on legal cannabis in Canada went to government coffers. Wow, that's not good. That's not good. All right, it says here 2 of every $5 spent on legal cannabis in Canada from 2022-23 went to the government budgets. The federal and provincial governments received $1.9 billion from cannabis sales to the most recent fiscal year, nearly 25% increase from the previous year. The figures were shared as part of an April 19th post on cannabis in Canada with figures from a recently released annual update from the federal agency. In addition to the $1 per gram excise tax applied to any cannabis sold into a provincial market, with 75% of this given to the provinces in which those products are sold, there are different provincial taxes and fees added to the cannabis. In addition, many provinces manage cannabis distribution and or sales, bringing in additional revenue. And that's why Ontario has got the largest profitable business in cannabis industry with the OCS. Sorry. The majority of sales of cannabis continue to be dried cannabis flower, accounting for over 65% of the $4.7 billion in sales in 2022-23. Cannabis extracts, however, represented most of the nearly 16% growth in cannabis sales from the year prior, with a 60% increase in sales within the extracts category. The Canadians under 45 were more likely to consume cannabis than those younger. Oh, really? About 1/3 of adults 18 to 24, that was 38%, and 25 to 44-year-olds at 34% reported using cannabis over the course of the previous 12 months, compared with just those 15.5% of adults aged 45 years and older reporting cannabis use in the past 12 months. Well, I'm over 45. I can report my use. These figures were even lower for those consumers who use cannabis on a more regular basis. Only about 10% of adults aged 18 to 44 reported using cannabis daily or almost daily, about twice as much as those 45 and older. In comparison, about 75% of Canadians 15 years of age or older reported consuming alcohol between 2018 and 2017. This number was even higher for those 20 to 24 years of age. Interesting. Of those who said they had purchased legal cannabis in the past year, 71.7% said they bought it exclusively from legal sources. Product safety was the most commonly provided reason for choosing legal cannabis at 38%, while convenience and desire to follow the law were at 17% and 13% respectively. The 2022-23 fiscal year represented the first year cannabis producers in Canada sold less cannabis than the year before, a 2.9% decrease, but the taxes are up. Cannabis sales and supply may have reached a potential saturation point following 7 years of consecutive growth. Let's see. In addition to surveying cannabis consumers, Canada has also used samples of wastewater in major cities to measure things like cannabis use since 2019. Based on these samples, in Toronto, rates of users showing the most significant increase in cannabis, up 85% in 2023 compared to 2020, followed by the Metro Vancouver region, increasing 56% from those 3 years prior, while Halifax was consistently had the highest average cannabis levels in wastewater nationally since data collection began. they had the smallest increase at 27% among participating municipalities from 2020 to 2023. Unsurprisingly, cannabis-related arrests have continued to decline since legalization in 2018. There were 10,824 total cannabis-related offenses in 2022, with 67% of them related to the illegal import or export of cannabis, while just 12% were for possession. It is legal in Canada to possess up to 30 grams in public, and it can be in the vehicle, but not accessible to the driver. I notice it didn't say in the trunk, because, like, for example, pickup trucks don't have a trunk. Where do you put it in a pickup truck? You just got to put it where it's out of reach of the driver, according to the way that the law is written. So, all right, one more story before I go to break. This one, it caught my eye because I don't think I ever really had heard of this going on, and I'm going to read it right along for the first time, other than I had read the headlines. So it's going to be very interesting. As you can see, this one comes from Inverse, and it says, "Can dogs benefit from psychedelics?" Here's what the latest science says. Wow. Psychedelics for dogs. Catnip, also known as kitty pot or even marijuana, in moderation, is a fun and harmless substance for our feline companions. We give our cats some of this kitty pot too. But if you're ever tried to give your pup some of the relaxing herb, not much will happen. Dogs, just like humans, don't really gain a benefit from the plant. Well, what do you mean? Just like humans. Lots of benefits to the humans. But does that mean dogs are totally left out of the experience? Recently, scientists have been researching the effects of other psychoactive drugs, not just on humans, but on puppy pals, to see if there is a catnip equivalent to our canine friends. Psychedelic research on dogs is even more in the infancy than it is for humans, according to Carlo Siracusa, a veterinarian and professor of clinical behavior medicine in the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Siracusa works on a collaborative team at UPenn called the Penn Psychedelic Collaborative, which investigates how psychedelic drugs work across disciplines. He's focused on how these psychoactive drugs affect dogs. Giving psychedelics to dogs isn't new. Siracusa says the substances have been used to enhance the performance of hunting dogs, as they are believed to improve their sensory perception, he tells Inverse. Shuar and Quitra, people in Ecuador, have been known to feed their dogs psychedelic plants for this reason. A 2015 study on the Journal of Ethnopharmacology studied 43 plant species, the Shuar and the Quechua people in Ecuador, giving their hunting dogs to better understand the drug's effects on the animals and why they might provide a hunting advantage. The author suggests that the drugs might be working on the dog's serotonin receptors, which are involved in mood and perception, and might be leading to enhanced smell, hearing, and visual senses. He agrees on serotonin's importance, confirming that we know psychedelics act on these receptors. But there's still a lot we don't know, and many mechanisms that must be figured out to know all the ins and outs of how these drugs work in dogs. And many of these substances can be dangerous to dogs. For example, dogs that have ingested psilocybin delays a lack of coordination, barking, aggression, and an increased body temperature. He says that dogs that have eaten psilocybin have also been observed to run in circles, shake their head, run, bark, and ignore humans. Well, I think a lot of dogs do that without doing psychedelics. There's a potential risk of serotonin syndrome, a toxic buildup of the neurotransmitter in dogs who take psychedelic substances, as one 2023 review in the Journal of Veterinary and Animal describes. So while it might be tempting to give your dog an herb they can enjoy just like you do with your cat, there doesn't seem to be a catnip equivalent for dogs. At least we know about, according to what the article says. So, I know dogs do benefit from the benefits of cannabis. Seen it, done it. People have shared the stories. All right, it's time for me to take a break. Medication time. I'll be right back after I do that. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. And before I hit that button, don't forget the Global Marijuana March comes up May 4th. Toronto, hopefully, if you're not in Toronto, there's one close to you somewhere else that you can attend, because just because cannabis is legal in your country doesn't mean that there's no improvements that can be done to it. And there's lots that can be done to the one here in Canada. So we have to get out there and make that known. So back to the street, people. Here we go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
I'm back from my medication break, and you're live with Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. And we'll get right at it. First story after the break comes to us from StratCan, and the headline there says, the cannabis producers take shipping company to court over products seized at U.S. borders. Two cannabis producers are taking a shipping company to court, alleging the company attempted to take the cannabis over the U.S. border, resulting in the seizure of 151 51 kilograms. U.S.-based We Grow BC Limited and Alberta-based West Leaf Labs, now known as Disciple Cannabis, filed a notice of civil claim in the U.S. Supreme Court this month for $834,000, arguing the BC-based Seven Elk Shipping's actions resulted in the seizure of the product by U.S. border officials. The notice of claim contends that We Grow BC and West Leaf Labs contracted the shipping company in January 2023 to deliver their cannabis within Canada, with specific instructions not to enter the U.S. Then in May, according to the notice of claim, Seven Elks took possession of several pallets of cannabis in Port Coquitlam, BC, for transport to We Grow in Creston, BC, and from Delta, BC, to Westleaf's facility in Calgary. So how did it end up in the U.S.? The claim contends that on May the 17th, the day the Seven Elk took possession of the product, the company attempted to cross the border at the Peace Arch Crossing in BC, where the cannabis was seized by U.S. authorities. U.S. Customs then destroyed the products, or at least refused to return them to any of the companies. We Grow BC and West Leaf Labs argue that the value of the product was $834,901,000, which Seven Elk charged $11,900 to deliver. The two cannabis companies allege Seven Elk's actions constitute a breach of contract, which has damaged their reputations. The lawsuit contends that Seven Elks acknowledged in written communications to We Grow and Westleaf its fault in respect of the seizure, but has refused to otherwise fail to compensate We Grow Westleaf for the losses arising from the seizure. We Grow BC and West Leaf Labs formally announced their collaboration in 2019, combining the BC cultivator operators and Quest brand. They say Seven Elk's website is no longer active, and these allegations have not been proven in court. Very interesting. Why if you're going to Calgary? Why do you go to the U? Unless is it just maybe a better road? I don't know. Some people go down across the top part of the U.S. instead of going through Quebec and dropping down. They're trying to go to the East Coast of Canada. I don't know of anything similar out there, but yeah, I'm not sure why they would take that cannabis down there, especially when they're been told not to, and they know they're shipping company. They're gonna know the rules, right? So, well, I'll keep an eye on that story for everybody. On to the next one, and this one comes to us from SitePost. Cannabis use linked to enhanced ability to understand other emotions is what the headline says. The article starts off with a recent study published by the Journal of Neuroscience Research offers an intriguing perspective on the effects of regular cannabis use, contrary to the commonly held view that cannabis has primarily negative impacts on mental health and behavior. The study suggests that regular cannabis users may have a heightened ability to understand the emotions of others. This enhanced empathetic ability is linked to increased cognitivity within certain brain regions, particularly the anterior cingulate cortex, a key area involving in processing empathy. Cannabis is one of the most widely used psychoactive substances worldwide, yet its impact on mental health and cognitive functions remain a subject of contentious debate. Traditional research predominantly highlights the negative consequences associated with cannabis use, particularly its potential to impair cognitive functions and contribute to mental health issues. These studies have often focused on how cannabis interacts with brain regions, like the anterior cingulate cortex, which is known to have high density of cannabinoid receptors and plays a significant role in cognitive processes such as decision making and emotional regulation. However, emerging evidence suggests that the influence of cannabis might not be entirely detrimental. Some studies have hinted at possible and positive effects, particularly in terms of mood regulation and anxiety reduction. This contradiction presents a gap in the current understanding of cannabis' comprehensive impact on brain function and behavior, particularly in how it may affect social cognitive processes such as empathy. Empathy is a critical social skill that involves understanding and reaching to the emotions or reacting to the emotions of others, relies on a network of brain regions, including the interior, there's that word again, anterior cingulate cortex. The known effects of cannabis on it and its role in emotional and cognitive functions led researchers to speculate that cannabis might be influenced empathy. To investigate the effects of regular cannabis use on it, a team of researchers from the University National, it's in New Mexico, conducted a study with 85 regular cannabis users and 51 non-users, which included both psychometric and neuroimaging approaches. This story is going to be pretty long. In terms of psychometric assessment, the participants underwent a series of empathy tests using the cognitive affirmative empathy test. This test is designed to measure different dimensions of empathy, including the ability to understand and share the emotions of others through cognitive and affirmative pathways. The TECA includes subscales for perspective taking, emotional comprehensive empathy tests, and empathy happiness, providing a comprehensive profile of each participant's capabilities. They got into neuroimaging there. I'm just sort of scanning through here. Cannabis users scored significantly higher on measures of emotional comprehensive compared to non-users. Emotional comprehensive involves the ability to accurately perceive and understand the emotions of others. The findings suggest that regular cannabis use may enhance an individual's ability to discern or interrupt the emotional states of others. They say that neuroimaging results provide a biological basis that supports these psychometric findings. They say the data show that cannabis users exhibit increased functional cognitivity in that cortex area. Increasingly, the researchers also found that the enhanced cognitivity was not just limited to areas traditionally associated with emotional processing. There was a greater cognitivity between there's that cortex and somatosensory areas in cannabis users. Big words. But yeah, I'm going to say that there's some good news there, and the story goes on for a bit more. You can check it out on our on the Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News Facebook page, and go from there. You'll be able to read the whole story completely and see what's going on with that. All right, on to the next one. This one's coming to me from, actually the next two are coming to me from the Marijuana Moment. So I expect this to be a little bit on the jumpy side, as they have a lot of pop-ups in their stuff. But here we go. 6 in 10 Americans are surprised marijuana hasn't been legalized across the U.S. yet. Yeah. I'm right there with them. All right. And that earlier story, one of these political parties down there has got to embrace the cannabis and say they're going to legalize it. So a new survey of Americans' habits, opinions, and expectations around cannabis finds that nearly 6 in 10 adults are surprised marijuana hasn't been legalized across the United States yet. The new Harris Poll report released on Thursday found that 4 in 10 U.S. adults are current cannabis consumers, with about a quarter of those using the substance at least weekly. Meanwhile, nearly 2/3, at 64%, said that cannabis no longer carries the stigma it used to have. Well, it's still some there. The numbers speak volumes. Libby Rodney, Chief Strategy Officer and Resident Futurist at the Harris Poll, a market research and consulting company, said in a statement about the group findings, with 4 in 10 Americans using cannabis, it's not a trend, it's a cultural shift. What was once taboo is now mainstream, reflecting changing attitudes and norms. I have to agree with him there. It's not just about usage, it's about acceptance, Rodney says, signaling a new era and how we perceive and interact with those once controversial substances. 59% of those surveyed said they were surprised cannabis hasn't been legalized across the United States yet. The results come in on the heels of a separate Gallup poll. Come on, don't jump on me. Separate Gallup poll. Okay, next line. Here we go. Indicating that rates of cannabis use are nearly the same in states that have legalized cannabis versus those that still prohibit it, which Gallup said suggests criminalization does little to curtail its use. The survey found that 1 in 10 adults reported using cannabis 10 or more times in the past month, while 1 in 5 used cannabis at least once in the past month. These findings were done from a March 22nd, the 24th survey of 2,000 Americans. They say 4 in 10 Americans use cannabis, including a quarter of those who use it on a weekly basis. You can see the chart right there. After the poll's other findings, among the poll's other findings, the survey showed that more than 7 in 10 people use cannabis reported preferring it over both cigarettes and alcohol. Yay. People were also asked about what they would give up to make or keep cannabis illegal for adult use. Among millennials, nearly half, that's 45%, said that they give up alcohol. Really? For example, while 34% that they give up coffee, or 32% they give up social media. Younger Gen Z respondents, by comparison, were less likely to give up any of these indulgences in favor of cannabis. More than a quarter of respondents, 27%, reported living in a jurisdiction where cannabis is legal for medical and adult use, while 13% said cannabis was completely illegal, and 13% only said only medical was legal, although about 9% said medical was legal and adult use was decriminalized. 24% of the respondents said they weren't sure of the legal status of cannabis in their location because they're probably not involved in it. You see the chart there. Pollsters also said that their findings show that zero tolerance workplace cannabis policies are losing the grip on the workplace, with 38% of respondents reporting that their workplace has a zero tolerance policy. By contrast, 15% said use for medical reasons was permitted outside work hours, while 23% said either medical adult use was allowed. Nearly a quarter said that they were unsure of the workplace policies. Employees, meanwhile, are looking for jobs that follow suit, according to the poll, with 1 in 5 saying they'd left an employer due to their cannabis use. 2/3 of Americans reported thinking cannabis products are overpriced, a number that jumped to 79% among cannabis users and 82% among the heavy users. Despite the poll itself, we got jumped again. Come on. Down. Despite the poll itself showing that perceptions are changing, Americans are still hesitant to share the cannabis habits. Nearly 2/3 of the cannabis users said that they were selective about revealing use, with more than half saying that they wouldn't disclose any cannabis usage on the first few dates. They say, looking forward, most Americans think cannabis reform will continue in the country, with 64% saying that it won't be long before cannabis is fully legalized. The same proportion said 2024 would be a good year for the cannabis industry, while 56% of the industry will fuel the American economy. As for whether to structure legalization in a way that benefits those most harmed by the drug war, a majority, it's 56%, said that social equity programs should be implemented to address historical injustices related to cannabis criminalization. This includes 68% of Democrats served and 46% of the Republicans. What else has it got down here? Well, a majority of Americans report regular cannabis use. Polls have consistently found that there's increasing bipartisan majority support. For example, 9 in 10 Americans say cannabis should be legal for recreational medical purposes. A Pew Research poll, which we did in an earlier report here, that was released last month, found that, and most agree that legalization bolsters local economies and makes the criminal justice more fair. So let's hopefully they can go ahead and do that. There's an election this year. They've got to do it. This is just, it's ridiculous not having cannabis legal in the U.S. When so many other places are doing it. It's just ridiculous. All right, on to my last story of the day, and this one, as I mentioned, comes from the Marijuana Moment, and it says, as a headline, CBD is a powerful and promising treatment for crack use disorder with fewer side effects than conventional therapy, a study finds. That is good news. A new study aiming to explore the efficacy of CBD as a treatment for crack use disorder found that people who took the cannabinoid had better health outcomes and fewer adverse health effects compared to those who took more conventional pharmaceutical treatments. The report says the main implications of this study point to CBD as a powerful and promising therapeutic tool for people with CUD. It was published this month in the International Journal of Mental Health and Addiction. CBD seems to mitigate the primary symptoms reported by the participants, such as a lack of appetite, difficulty in reducing crack use, and the feeling of poor health. In addition, CBD stands out primarily for presenting mild adverse events, the main complaints associated with the use of usual psychotropic drugs. The study, a double-blind, randomized, controlled trial, compares CBD to 3 drugs commonly used in crack use disorder treatment: fluoxetine, valproic acid, and clonazepam. CBD is a safe, tolerable product that presented significant fewer adverse events compared to the control group, the authors concluded. The CBD group outperformed better in more parameters than the control group, reducing crack use, not reducing food intake due to crack use, and greater improvements in self-related health. Participants were aged 18 to 65 in Brazil who had used crack regularly for the past year, used at least 20 times within the past month, and had a desire or intention to treat their use disorders. While many participants were polydrug users, crack was their primary drug, according to both participants themselves and the study team. All told, 25 people completed the study, 15 in the CBD group and 10 in the control group, which was given the more conventional treatment. Most of the 90 people who initially met eligible criteria did not return to complete the fall protocol. Among those who did complete the fall study, no significant differences in the reduction of crack use were seen between the control and CBD groups, indicating that the 2 treatments may be similarly effective. Likewise, no significant differences were observed between the 2 groups in terms of self-reported cravings of crack. It's too bad. Only 90%. 90%. 15 of the people. Most of the 90 people who initially met eligible criteria did not return. So That part is disappointing. CBD side effects, however, were far gentler than conventional treatment. There were significant differences between the CBD group in comparison to the control group, with fewer episodes in the CBD group regarding diarrhea, constipation, nausea, dizziness, memory impairment, low concentration, tremor, and ataxia, and nasal congestion. Fewer adverse effects from CBD could mean participants are more likely to remain in treatment, researchers noted. Side effects from pharmaceutical treatments can be so uncomfortable, the team wrote, that they end up contributing to low adherence to treatment of people with CUD in health services, which would favor broad access to CBD. The 22 authors behind the new study represent academic and official institutions in Brazil, including various departments at the University of Brasilia, the Brazilian Federal District Secretary of Health and Forensic Institute, and Federal University in São Paulo. They explain that it's difficult to outline the mechanism of action behind the CBD because the cannabinoid has a broad spectrum of pharmacological properties that affect multiple targets. On the other hand, the multiple target action seems important for performing a large range of therapeutic properties. CBD decreases endocannabinoid receptor signaling and inhibits fatty acid amide hydrolase, which could reduce cravings and decrease relapse rates in people. Further research, the team said, will focus on increasing the sample size of similar trials and instituting more rigorous screening and monitoring participants. Well, it's good to see that they're finding benefits there when it comes to people with crack use disorder. This is wild. When you look back on the way that cannabis was stigmatized all the years and how it led to hard drug use, and more and more and more and more research comes out showing that cannabis is a gateway out for a lot of these people, improves their lives, so on and so forth. So it'd be nice that, especially in the U.S., if they could legalize this stuff down there, and then that will help open the floodgates, because as we know, it was the U.S. that pushed a lot of the countries to go with the prohibition route. And once they open that door, hopefully more countries will open it, and people can get access to the benefits of cannabis, whether it's medicinal for a health reason or whether it's for substance use reason in order to help that, or just for recreational purposes. So time will tell, as they say. Well, other than that, I am done for the day. And that's, as I say, that's the Pace News Report for April the 22nd. It's Earth Day here in Canada. I believe it's Earth Day around the world. We're live here. Legacy420.com news desk. And thanks to our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Legacy420.com, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. And in closing, I'd like to thank you for watching and tuning in. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.